Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Teresa, this is Lost My Thread. Today I'm going to be checking in with my sewing resolutions and telling you about my goals for 2024. The end of the year is a really great opportunity to look back over how the previous year has gone, for better or for worse, and to do a little bit of thinking and planning going forward about things that maybe I might want to continue with or things that I might want to change. Now, this is my third video about my sewing resolutions, and I felt quite strongly all throughout that I don't necessarily want to focus on specific things to tick off a list like a make 9, for example, though there will be a little bit of that coming later on in the video. It's more, I think I want to make sure that there are general themes that I'm keeping at the top of my mind so that I'm sure that I'm going to get the most from my sewing, that I'm going to enjoy the process, that I'm going to be more satisfied at the end of each project. So I want to just revisit the sewing resolutions that I set myself previously, see how I've done in achieving those, and if I want to adjust those at all in the upcoming year. The other thing I will be doing is sharing my 24 for 2024. Those are more really specific goals and things I'm hoping to do throughout the year, a little bit more like a tick box type thing, and I will be sharing those at the end. I do have quite a lot of sewing ones, general creativity ones, and some that are just more specific to me and personal things in my life. I will be including chapters down below if you are interested in skipping ahead to any particular one of those. My first resolution is more of just a gentle reminder to myself, which also may be helpful for you guys to hear, and that is a reminder to enjoy it. Sewing is supposed to be fun. Now, I come to sewing as a release. It's a way to get away from the stresses in the world, to do something that I just really enjoy, something that I get a lot out of for me. And sometimes I can get a little bit wrapped up in things like collaborations, sewing challenges, feeling like I need to be doing all the things. And reminding myself to take a step back is really, really important, especially if I am feeling stressed or overwhelmed for any reason. Now, I think last year I did a good job, and I really didn't do very much in the way of collaborations, sewing vlogger tours, challenges. And I'm feeling ready to start to bring some of those in just gently, do a little bit more of those things than I had last year, but I still need to make sure that I'm striking that balance. The other thing that I wanted to do last year was to give myself permission to take a break from a project, even abandon a project if it's just stressing me out, if I'm not enjoying it. That was something that I was really grateful that I had in the back of my mind when I was working on my wedding dress refashion. There were quite a few times when I was getting really stressed out, where I was unpicking and re-sewing things, trying to get everything to align, and it was making me really frustrated. And actually putting that project down for a day, for an afternoon, and working on another project, it really just helped me to reset and not feel quite so overwhelmed when I went back to it. And that meant that I was able to get everything done that I needed to do, but I was able to just maintain that little bit of reminder for myself that this is meant to be fun. Even though I gave myself a deadline for that one, even though I was sewing with my wedding dress fabric, I still wanted to make sure that I was enjoying the process. And so I feel like I did a pretty good job with that. Thinking about ways that I want to work this resolution into my sewing going forward, one thing that I want to do is to make sure that I maintain a mix of some more in-depth, slow projects, but also some really quick and easy projects. I have found that when I have something that's very intense, really involves a lot of steps, quite complicated, I get a lot out of those projects. I absolutely love those projects, but it is a lot mentally. It's quite involved. It's not the same kind of carefree, relaxed sewing that you get from maybe making a t-shirt, for example. So I want to make sure that I maintain a mix of both of those to allow myself to both stretch my learning, which I really enjoy, but also allow myself to just do some nice, easy things that are just going to take the edge off, and I can, watch a YouTube video whilst I'm sewing. My next resolution is to buy less and use what I've got. Now, on the whole, I have to say this has been a little bit, it's been all right, just about all right. If I look at sewing patterns, I think I'm actually pretty happy with how I've done on this front. I have not bought a ton of new sewing patterns. I have bought some, and I'm totally happy with that. I don't want to stop myself from that. But I have been revisiting a lot of old patterns. New ones that I've bought, I've often made multiple versions of that garment. I've been doing a lot of pattern hacking to try and stretch my patterns a bit further. So for that, I am quite satisfied. I've also been doing a lot of refashions over the last year. I've started a bit of a tradition on my channel where in Me Made May, I look through garments that I've made that I'm not wearing anymore. I might say goodbye to them. I might refashion them. I also refashioned some things that I purchased over this last May as well. So I feel like for that is really in keeping with this resolution. But where I have fallen down a little bit is my stash. I have a healthy fabric stash and I want to have a healthy fabric stash. For me, the ideal would be if I come up with an idea, I have the pattern already, I have the fabric already, and I can sew it up. I like to be able to have things so that if inspiration strikes, I might be able to make something up straight away, or if a new pattern's released that I'm really excited about, I can go ahead and just sew that up. But I have a designated area for my fabric. It is a cupboard. It's the side of my wardrobe and there are 4 shelves, and I feel like that should be everything I need. That should be all the fabric that I need to keep in stash. But I now have a separate overflow area on the top of my dresser, which I don't love. I really do want to try and just pare that down. I don't necessarily want to get to a point where I'm like a one in, one out type system. I just feel like it's a little bit more than it needs to be. It's not crazy, but it's more than it needs to be. So I need to spend some time making sure that I'm working through the things that I've already got in stash before I start bringing too much else into it. And there's a number of ways to do that. One thing I will say is that I am going to a fabric swap again in January. So I mentioned that I went to this last year. It is being organized by Sarah of Olive Road and Yvette of Blossom Sandwich is also taking part of Stash Hub. She's Blossom Sandwich and Stash Hub. Yvette, you know Yvette. If you don't, I'll put links to her YouTube channel and I'll put links to their Instagram pages down below if you're interested in finding out more about this event. But the idea of the fabric swap is to bring in fabrics that you are no longer loving, and then other people can then take to a loving home. You may also pick up some things if you see anything that you love. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't get anything from this fabric swap, but my main aim is to pick through anything that I don't think I really need in my stash and give that away to somebody else who might love it. I am also planning to work through my fabric scraps. That's one of the things as well. I have some big scrap bins and I feel like I have scraps that don't fit in the bins anymore. I need to get a handle on those. Some of that I will say is it's just the way things have been, what I've been able to do with my sewing lately, but some of it is I just need to get, I think, a little bit more creative and play around with some of those things and maybe say goodbye to some of those scraps that I'm just realistically not going to be using. My third sewing resolution is to slow down, make clothes to last. Now, I think on the whole, I am really proud of how much I've done of that in the last year. I feel like it used to seem like a whole big thing to do, say, French seams, for example, but currently I'm just like, this one would do with French seams, and I go ahead and do it. Don't really think too much about it. And it's nice to be in that space. I will say I've also been tackling some more slow sewing projects, which has meant that I've been able to focus a little bit more on the details. But I think the thing I want to focus on this in particular is making clothes to last. That doesn't mean that every garment needs to be a couture garment. I feel like in this past year, I've definitely had my own struggles. I had been wanting to do a lot more hand sewing, which I definitely have done, focus more on those finishing details. But over the last maybe few months or so, I've had problems with my hand and my wrist where I haven't been able to hand sew. I've been a lot more limited with what I can do, even just cutting fabric out, sewing on the sewing machine. And so I've had to really just be realistic with myself about what I could do and what was the most important. I don't want to lose that joy that I mentioned in my first resolution. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and get to a point where I'm feeling like everything needs to be perfect. I'm not a perfectionist with my sewing. I don't want to be a perfectionist with my sewing. It's all about making sure that however I'm making my clothes, that I'm just not cutting corners. It may be that I need to serge an edge rather than French seam an edge, which is fine. Not everything needs to be French seamed, and sometimes I'm just not in the mood for those French seams. Sometimes I just want to make a nice serged edge and call it a day. So it's all about finding the balance for me, that I do want to make sure that I'm giving things as nice of a finish that is going to allow them to be sustained items in my wardrobe. And if I'm in the mood to go a little bit further with some bias bow seams, or I feel like maybe it's an edge that's going to be seen that I want to take a little bit more time, then it's fine to do that too. But it doesn't need to be hard and fast along those lines for me to feel like I'm making things that are going to see the test of time in my wardrobe. Something that I want to spend more of my time and energy now on, though, is thinking about using quality materials. I have definitely noticed that when I've sewn clothes with higher quality, more expensive, nicer fabrics, I enjoy the sewing more, I enjoy wearing those clothes more, so they actually see more of the light of day. So actually spending a little bit more on something, if it's a higher quality, it really can be worth it for me, and it makes a garment that I know that I'm gonna love and reach for again and again. And so I want to spend more time thinking about not only the fabrics, but also the zippers, the bindings. I want to make sure that everything that I'm putting into my projects is going to help to make it be a long-standing favorite in my wardrobe as much as I can. My fourth sewing resolution is to be thoughtful. Separates need to pair. Now this is one I think I've done a pretty good job of over the last year. If you've been watching any of my seasonal sewing plans videos, you'll probably have noticed I'm tending to try and make sure that I've got things that will work with each other, so that way I'm not going to end up with a load of garments that just don't fit into my wardrobe. Now I'm not being super strict on this, because sometimes there's a fabric that really just speaks to me, or a color that really just speaks to me, and then I need to try and think about, okay, if this is the only thing that I have that doesn't pair with anything else, what else can I make so that I can then have something to wear it with? On the whole, though, I feel like I've been gravitating a little bit more towards autumnal colors, softer colors, warmer colors. I feel like I'm finding my palette, and I'm not necessarily going to be committed just to that, but it has definitely made it helpful. I've also made more of a point to sew some solids as well as like the lovely prints and bright florals. I am someone who loves a print, and I know that the more I've got of the solids to pair with them, the more it just gives me options. So that's been a really good thing to realize, and actually really embrace those solids, especially a nice textured solid. I really do get a lot out of in my wardrobe. The only thing that I really want to work on for this resolution is to really try and consider my full wardrobe when I'm buying new fabric. I think that is where I can fall down, and I get really excited when I see a beautiful fabric, a beautiful print, and I just want to buy it because it's exciting, it's really pretty, it makes me happy. But actually, it might be beautiful, but if I'm not wearing it, what is the point? What am I getting out of it really? So I think that's just something I'm going to bear in mind, so that if I am getting any new fabrics, that I am considering whether or not they're going to slot into what I've already got in my wardrobe. If not, it's okay occasionally. I just don't want to be too overwhelmed with fabrics that are just sitting in my stash again. And finally, my fifth sewing resolution is to be brave, take part in the sewing community. It's really interesting when I look at where I am now within the sewing community compared to 3 years ago when I initially set this goal. I feel like this isn't even something I necessarily need to think about so much, because it's just been incorporated into my life, which is really lovely. I would say it's a pretty common thing for me to go to sewing parties, sewing meetups, big and small. I feel like I'm much more a part of the community than I was, which is really nice. I love this community. I love all of you guys, the people who comment regularly, the people that I chat to on Instagram. It's just such a warm, wonderful community, and it gives me so much. And I feel like being on this channel is another way that I've been able to do that. But honestly, the face-to-face has also just been quite different for me, and a really positive thing. I have a couple of sewing friends that we meet up regularly. I have people that I've gone fabric shopping with. It's just a really cool thing, and I feel like that's something I certainly do want to continue with, but I don't think I necessarily need to push myself. I think I'm just kind of already there. I feel like I need to just explain a little bit of background for this before I get into my 24 for 2024. I found out about this idea of goal setting from the Love to Sew podcast. They got the idea from the Happier podcast by Gretchen Rubin. The idea is to make the same number of goals as the year, so 24 goals for 2024 coming up. Some of these goals might be really in-depth, really big things you wanted to do for a long time, you're going to push yourself to do it, or they might just be some simple, easy things that you just might not do unless you give yourself the suggestion to do it, things that we easily don't get around to doing. This will be my third year doing it. I did this in 2020, 2023, and now I'm doing it again in 2024. I will go through my list with you guys, and I'll have it up on the screen so that you can follow along. But I will say they're not all sewing related. So they start off with some sewing related things. This list was also definitely inspired by looking back at my previous list, so there's some repeats from previous lists. Also a little bit influenced by reading some emails with my husband. So I mentioned to you guys in my sewing refashions that my husband and I have been reading old emails that we wrote each other back when we first met in 2022 and 2023. Has definitely reminded me of some of the things in the past that I loved that maybe I've forgotten, and also just little parts of myself that would be nice to get back to. And so some of those things will be mixed into here as well. So sewing stuff to start with. Number one is I want to sew a quilt for myself. I have made 2 quilts for other people, never made one for me. I am definitely determined to do it. I have actually bought a sewing pattern and the fabric for a Cedar Quilt Co pattern. The name has gone out of my mind. I'll pop in some images and the name of it, so if you guys are interested in checking it out, you can do. I really think this will be a lovely one to do, and it will be relatively straightforward. It will be fun to play around with the different colors. I do already have the fabrics as well, so I'll pop in an image of what the fabrics look like so you can get a general idea. But I think the placement is really what's going to make the difference for this one, and so I want to do that at some point for myself this year. The second thing I want to do this year is to sew with silk. I have been sewing for 25 years, and guys, I've never sewn with silk. I think I've always just been a little bit terrified about it, specifically about like the washing. If you guys have any tips and suggestions about washing, I am not a dry clean person. I am not going to take stuff to the dry cleaner, but I know not all silk needs to be dry cleaned. I just don't want to ruin it because it's pricey fabric. So if you can recommend how to look after silk and wash silk, or types of silk to look out for, I would really love those suggestions. I'm determined to sew with some silk this year. Goal number 3 is to sew Christmas presents for my immediate family. So I gave myself a break this year. I did not do any Christmas sewing, but I kind of missed it. I do like sewing for people, especially around Christmas time. I'm not necessarily going to be making a big, huge thing for people, but just being able to make a little something small for everyone is really lovely, and so I want to do that this year. Number 4 is a repeat from 2020 that I never did then and I still haven't done and I really want to do, which is to participate in a 10 by 10 wardrobe challenge. A lot of you might be familiar with this. If you're not familiar with it, the idea is that you will pick 10 garments, 10 items of clothing that will be the only things you wear over a 10-day period. You're allowed to wash them, that's not a problem. But the main thing is, it's just to try and help you to stretch your wardrobe, try things a little bit differently, mix and match things that you wouldn't normally mix and match. If anyone else wants to take part in a 10 by 10 wardrobe challenge, let me know. If we do it together, we're probably more likely to do it. We can either send messages on Instagram or email, however you guys want to get in touch with me. Let me know if you're interested, and I want to make a plan to definitively do a 10 by 10 wardrobe challenge at some point this year. I kind of had a cute idea of doing it starting on the 10th of the 10th, so the 10th of October, but I don't know if that's the best time of year to do it. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you want to join in, and I'm doing it. You should do it too. Number 5 is to visit Merchant & Mills. Merchant & Mills is a fabric shop based in the southeast of England in Rye. Never been there. I did go to Merchant & Mills stall at one of the stitch festivals or knitting and stitching show, can't remember whichever it was, and just seeing all of their fabrics together, they are gorgeous fabrics, and they are fabrics that are on the pricier end, and so I felt like in general I've shied away from them. But I've had 2 fabrics that I got from Merchant & Mills that have ended up being 2 of my most favorite garments that I've ever made. And this goes back to my idea of actually choosing quality over just price. I know that if things are of a high quality, I'm going to love them a lot more. And so it's worth splurging now and again. So I do want to take a trip to Merchant & Mills and see not only their fabrics, but also their haberdashery items. I know they have beautiful cuffing and webbing and things like that. So I just want to go there and see what they've got and pick out a few gems that I know are going to end up being loved garments in my future. Number 6 is take part in Vlogmas. I wanted to give myself a break in 2023 to not have to commit to Vlogmas. Turned out that was the perfect choice because with my hand I wouldn't have been able to hold a camera anyway. But I really have missed it. Seeing all the Vlogmas videos was giving me all like the Christmas feels and getting me all excited and feeling like, oh, I wish I was doing Vlogmas. I couldn't have done, but I don't want to wait again. I want to do it in 2024. I'm really excited to show you guys a little bit more around London, a bit about my life, and I'm looking forward to it. Hope you guys look forward to it as well. And you guys will be seeing if I manage to do that one in December. Number 7 is knit a hat. This one has been carried over. I wasn't able to knit a hat. I don't think it's a crazy huge goal, genuinely. So many people have said to me, hats is like the first thing they ever knitted. It's not a complicated thing to do. I just need to be physically able, and I'm gonna get myself the hat knitted up. Number 8 is take a pottery class. So we're getting into like not sewing, but creative elements. I've always been curious to try pottery. I love making things with my hands in general, really enjoy making things with my hands. I could absolutely see myself loving pottery. Now, I don't necessarily need a new expensive hobby, but just to play around a little bit. I'm not committing to becoming a potter. I just want to take a pottery class. I feel like that would be super fun. If you have done that in London and there's a specific class, or if there's a venue that you really recommend, please do let me know. I am a 100% absolute beginner, never held clay apart from Play-Doh, but I feel like it would be such a fun thing to try. Number 9 is have some fun with origami. Origami is something that I have loved throughout my life. I've had little phases where I've been like on a mega origami kick. I've bought a variety of origami paper. I was recently going through my paper and found that I actually do have a pack. This came from Japan, so I'm not sure. My brother lives in Japan, so I'm not sure if he sent it or if it's something that I bought when I visited him in Japan. But they're really beautiful papers that have like 2 shades. So on one side it's lighter and on the other side it's darker. Really beautiful origami paper in a whole multitude of colors. I think it would just be really fun to spend a little bit of time. I'm not necessarily saying I'm going to get back into an origami kick, but it could happen. I wouldn't be shocked. At the very least, I want to make some really fun things with paper, and I feel like it's something that I won't do unless I have it on my list and remind myself that I want to do it. So I'm going to do it this year. Number 10 is to bake a fancy cake for no reason. This was on my 20 for 2020 goals, and I did it, and man, it was such a good idea. I really love baking, and I do bake a lot. I usually bake for other people though, especially a cake. A cake is a whole big thing. You're not gonna just bake a whole big cake for yourself, but why not? When I'm baking for other people, I am baking to their specifications, what they want. But the cake that I would most want to eat isn't necessarily being made. So something I really wanna do is think about what kind of cake I would really love to have. It's gonna be complex, there's gonna be a lot of layers, there may be fruit, there may be whipped cream, there's definitely gonna be a lot of beautiful design elements going around on the outside, and there's gonna be no reason. It's not for your birthday, not for my birthday, not for anybody else's special occasion. It's just gonna be for the heck of it, to do something wonderful and do something fun and get a lovely cake out of it. So that is one I know I will love doing, and I'm really excited to do that at some point in 2024. Number 11 is to make donuts. That's another one I was hoping to do last year, didn't manage to do. I have a really good recipe for donuts. I made them once before, and my husband and I absolutely inhaled a huge batch of donuts. I want those donuts again. My husband wants those donuts again. We both think they are the best donuts we've ever had, but there is no way the two of us can work through that many donuts again. It's just not good for you guys. So what I really want to do is find an occasion, probably for my family, to make a big batch of donuts for everyone to share together. So I need my hand in working order and a big family gathering for that to happen, and I feel confident that can happen in 2024. Number 12 is master making the perfect chai. Now this one is kind of just a silly one. I really do love chai. Chai is like a milky, spicy Indian tea, very popular in the UK. Specifically, chai lattes have become super popular in the UK. Now I will say 9 times out of 10, if I order a chai latte somewhere, I'm disappointed and I don't like it. But 1 time out of 10, when I get the good one, it is the best drink on the menu, in my personal opinion. I am a sucker for a good chai, but for me it needs to be really nice, good mixture of spices, good balance of flavors. I don't like an overly sweet chai, and so I feel like the only way for me to get the chai that I like is to experiment, play around with spices, play around with making it myself, and I'm looking forward to doing that this year. I will definitely share with you guys what I decide is my own personal favorite chai. I've been doing some research, looking around, looking at recipes. I would like to make a chai latte as well as making just a general drink of chai. One way or another, feel like it will be a fun thing to experiment in this next year. Number 13 is to complete a 30-day yoga journey in 30 days. This, of course, is referring to Yoga with Adriene, who has a 30-day yoga journey at the beginning of every year, starting on the 1st of January. Because of my hand and my wrist, I have definitely still been doing yoga, but I don't feel like I can do it for a full-on 30 days without taking a break. I don't think that would do me any favors. But I want to, at some point when my hand and my wrist are in a better situation, I want to do it in a full 30 days. Currently, I do yoga 5 days a week, one way or another, and that is just my life, has been for the last couple of years. But I want to do a full 30-day challenge at some point in this next year. Number 14 is a bigger one. It's not just a single day, it's more of just an overall, over the year, something I would like to do, is have 1 phone-free day every week, which for some of you guys, that might seem like no big deal. For a lot of you guys, you might be the same as me and think, that's a lot. It is a lot. I mean, I am on my phone a lot, both with YouTube and Instagram, and to be honest, those are the things I probably use my phone for the most. I'm talking with other people, I'm replying to comments, I'm leaving comments on other people's things. I look at my phone while I'm sewing to watch a YouTube video, for example, but I feel like we can get all of us really too hooked up onto our phones where we're spending too much time looking at screens. I really enjoy taking a little bit of a distance and a little bit of looking around my life and appreciating the here and now. And so I want to make sure one day a week, not necessarily the same day, because depending on work schedule that may or may not be possible, at least one day a week, I want to just put my phone over to the side and not look at it for the whole day. We'll see how I go. A lot of the next ones come from reading back emails that my husband and I wrote each other back when we were first talking in 2002 and 2003. The first one is number 15, bring regular meditation back into my life. Now, I'd forgotten how much I was meditating back when I was 20. I will say meditation is something that I have done on and off at different points of my life, more at certain times. Certainly at that time I was doing it a lot. I was talking a lot about it. I feel like it's not necessarily a specific technique that I'm pointing to. I will put a link down below if you're curious of the type of meditation I mean, but honestly it's more just about trying to let your mind clear, allowing any thoughts that come in to just drift away again. And I feel like it's a really good thing for just bringing a bit of mindfulness, bringing you to the present moment, making you more peaceful and zen. Certainly something that I feel like most of us could use and something that I would like to bring a little bit more into my life. Number 16, I am super excited about, and that is to read one R.H. Blythe haiku book every season. So I have a stack of books here. They are the sweetest little books. They're a really nice size. You can see my hand, right? They're like the size of your palm, each of these books. There are 4 books. They are partly there's some writing by, but mainly translated by R.H. Blythe. He is my favorite haiku translator, period. I am a big fan of haiku, have been a big fan of haiku certainly since I was in my teens, really do love it. And these are just a really wonderful collection of haikus with different themes. So the first one is called Eastern Culture, and it starts off by talking about spirituality in haiku, different types of religion in haiku, also just about the technique of haiku. So I'd say it's a bit more of a general one. The second one, volume 2, is called Spring, and so it's all about haikus relating to spring season. The second one is Summer and Autumn, and the third one is Autumn Winter. So you can see why I've decided to break it into each season. I really love reading these books before bed. I feel like it gets me into a really nice, calm place, and when I'm trying to drift off to sleep, I can think about some of the imagery that's coming up in the haiku. I really do recommend, if you guys are fans of haiku, to get these books. They are old books. You have to get old used copies. It's no longer in print, but I love an old book, an old used book, and quite a few of these are old library books, which just makes me really happy. I did read these. My husband, I had a little note in here I can see, bought these for me in Christmas of 2012. Absolutely loved them, knew that I would want to revisit them. There are also just some really beautiful pictures in here. So some of it is like pictures of paintings, a lot of them by actual haiku poets as well, which is really wonderful. They're beautiful books, they're a joy to read, and I'm really excited that I've given myself the idea to read them again this year. Number 17 is very similar vein. It is to reread this book, The Complete Poems of E. E. Cummings. I love E. E. Cummings. He is probably my favorite poet, either him or Isa, the haiku poet, but either way, I really do love me some E. E. Cummings. It's a thick old book, so my plan is to reread this whole book cover to cover. I've already made a start because partly I don't really love the thing of like saving all the things you want to do till January, but I want to finish this book because I've made a bit of a start already. I've always loved E. E. Cummings as long as I can remember, as long as I've been into poetry, certainly since I was a young teenager, kind of 15, 16 age. I feel like his poetry just really resonates with me, and if you're someone who likes poetry, you probably have a favorite poet. Sometimes people just speak to you, kind of like a certain music really speaks to you, and I have really been enjoying when I've been rereading the emails that I sent to my husband. I used to send him a lot of E. E. Cummings poems that seemed appropriate for the context for what we were talking about. And yeah, they really were just so moving, so beautiful, and I'm looking forward to rereading each and every one of his poems. Number 18 is to take 10 books out from the library. It's not a big ask. 10 books is not a whole lot of books. It's more, I think, this one about reminding myself how much I love the library and that I want to go to the library. I have loved the library ever since I can remember, since I was a very small child. I always wanted to take out as many books as I possibly could. I just love the environment of the library. I love the concept of the library. Like, free books for everyone is just amazing. And I haven't been to the library much over the last few years. It's just kind of not been the first thing I thought of when I wanted to read a book. And I want that to now be my default. If I want to read a book, check if it's at the library, because I want to support my local library. I really do love them and I want to see them thrive, and I'm going to go at least, well, yeah, at least 10 books, not necessarily at least 10 occasions, because knowing me, I'll probably take out multiple books at once, but I'm going to get at least 10 books from the library in this next year. Number 19 is one that I borrowed from my 2020 goals, and that is to go on regular walks, whatever the weather. I really appreciated that I told myself to do that I suggested to myself to do that back in 2020. In fairness, 2020 was a bit of a year, and I think most of us probably went outdoors more often than we had because we were stuck at home largely. I mean, I was working in all honesty because I'm a midwife, but I was still spending more time at home than I usually would do, and going for walks was a really wonderful respite for me. But I know that being outdoors, being out in the environment really helps my mental health, helps my calmness. I love going for walks, so does my husband, and I know that if it's a bit cold or if it's a bit rainy, I can be put off. But I also know that whenever I go out, even if it's cold, even if it's rainy, I'm always grateful that I did. So this is just a little reminder to myself, go on more walks, stop worrying about, is it the perfect day for a walk? Every day is a perfect day for a walk if I'm well enough to do it and I've got time to do it. So I want to remember to do that. Number 20 is to go for a walk in the heavy rain without an umbrella. If you haven't done that, guys, I highly recommend it. I did not used to use an umbrella, carry an umbrella when I was 20. When I was emailing my husband, I would complain that my mom keeps giving me umbrellas and I keep telling her I don't want them. I'll just get rained on and I'll dry off and it'll be fine. And that was what I did. Now, I feel like that was mostly in flip-flops where I didn't worry about having like soaking feet by the end of the day. And I probably didn't have anything that I needed to do, that I needed to look super presentable. But it was just kind of a mindset, honestly, something that I really liked at the time, feeling like I was in touch with the environment, in touch with the world around me. I'm not saying I'm getting rid of my umbrellas, but I want one good long walk in the heavy rain. I'll probably wear some flip-flops so I don't have soggy feet. I think I'm going to enjoy it. Let me know if you've done it before. Let me know if you want to try it, because it feels pretty amazing. It feels pretty great to just like throw away the idea of what you're supposed to be doing, and probably you'll get some funny looks, and I don't know, too bad for those people that are not open-minded enough. I'm fully willing to look ridiculous, and I really want to have a time where I can get in touch with my younger self, get in touch with nature, and get a little bit rained on. Not gonna hurt me. Number 21 is to go to an old favorite place that I haven't visited in years. Now, my husband and I, obviously, reading through these emails, have been remembering a lot of things that we did in those early days together, all the places we've been together over these years, and both of us feel like it would be a really nice thing to go back to some places where we have some really incredible memories, relive some of those, revisit those places, see how they might have changed, and make some new memories. Number 22 is to go to a concert. I really do like live music, but main thing that puts me off, honestly, is a lot of times the people can be really noisy, can really invade your personal space, but there's a lot to get out of it. I have not been to a concert in a while. I used to go to them really regularly, and I felt like it would be a fun thing to do. My husband and I do already have some plans anyway, so this is a bit of a cheeky one to add on there that I know is going to get crossed off. We are planning to go see the Smashing Pumpkins in Weezer in the summer, and we met on a Smashing Pumpkins message board, so it seems fun and appropriate for us to be able to go together. We have been to see the band before, but it'll be a fun one to do this year. And Weezer, I mean, come on, that's a great double bill. I think it'll be a really fun thing to do, and a little nod back to some of the things that we used to do in the earlier days when we were first together. Number 23 is to explore more of the north with our family up in Manchester. So I have a brother, sister-in-law, and niece who live up in Manchester. They keep telling us to come up and stay with them for a while and explore more of the area, and we're doing it. We may do it earlier in the year, later in the year, but at some point in 2024, we're going up there. We're going to go to some places we've never been before. I know it is a beautiful part of the country. There's so much of this country that I have not seen that I would love to explore, but it's really fun to be able to do it with people who are a little bit more local, and I think that'll be a really fun one. And number 24 is to visit Kew Gardens in the daytime. This is a bit of a funny one because I've been to the Kew lights, the winter lights that they do in December around Christmas time, and they are incredible, but I've never been there in the daytime. Kew Gardens is one of the biggest botanical gardens in the world. It looks beautiful from when I'm looking on the website. It looks nice in the dark, but I need to see it for real. And I need to see it when there's a lot more like spring or summer blossoms and beautiful stuff going on. I've been talking to some of my in-laws, and there's a few of us who want to do it, so I'm sure it is going to happen at some point. But I do want to see it in all of its glory and when the sun is shining, or even if it's not shining, when it's daytime. So going through all of that, I have to say, I feel like I have a pretty nice year ahead. Going through my 24 for 2024, I think it's important to mention that I'm not necessarily committed to doing all of these things. It's more like nice suggestions. When I made my video like this last year, Bri of Bri Michelle made a really nice comment that she liked the idea of having a list like a to-do list and thinking of it more like a menu. She talks about this on her sewing channel as well. So basically it's like a list of suggestions of things that you might want. You don't need to do those things. If you do them, great. And so basically I've given my list of 24 suggestions of things that I think that I would really like to do this year. If I do them, amazing. If I don't do them, that's cool. I've at least had the ideas, and I'm more likely to find things that I enjoy on the day-to-day if I remember that I've got this list. I would love to hear what your resolutions are, big or small, sewing or personal. I feel like being able to share with each other the things that we're hoping for in the coming year will always give each other suggestions, but also help us to get to know each other a little bit more as well. So please do leave me a comment down below about what you're hoping for 2024. Let me know if you have any thoughts about any of the things that I'm looking forward to myself, if it's giving you any ideas. If you are tempted to make a 24 for 2024, I say by all means do it. And I want to hear each of those 24 items down below, or you can send me a DM on Instagram or email me if you don't want to be totally public about it. You don't have to share, obviously, but I think it's really fun to hear what are those things, especially those little small things, quite personal things that you feel like will enhance your coming year. Thank you so much for watching this video, for supporting me over the past year. I'm looking forward to lots of fun videos interacting with all of you guys in 2024. Please do give me a like if you enjoyed the video. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel if you do want to see more of my videos, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!